Hey everyone, welcome back to the show.
Hello, hello. We are so happy you are here today.
Alice, I have a question for you, a very important question.
Ooh, I love questions. What is it, David?
Have you ever imagined a future where robots are everywhere, like really everywhere?
Oh, definitely. Sometimes it's a cool vision, like a robot butler bringing me coffee. Other times it's a bit scary, like robots taking over the world.
That's exactly what we're talking about today, our relationship with robots and the future they might bring.
So today we're exploring that big question, robots and us.
Exactly. And no pressure today, we're going to look at what some experts think about this. It's a fascinating topic, and we'll learn some great reading skills along the way.
Experts talking about robots? I'm ready. Let's go.
We'll be reading a passage that asks three leaders in their fields some big questions about robots.
Just from the title, Robots and Us, I'm already wondering, will they talk about robots working in factories? Or maybe robots as friends? Or even robots exploring space?
Great guesses. It could also explore if robots will become smarter than us, or if we should be scared of them. Let me guess, maybe there's even a discussion about what science fiction tells us about robots.
I love that. It's like we're peeking into the future. Let's dive in and see what these experts have to say.
Here is what we will do today. In part 1, we read the passage together. In part 2, we learn the 8 skills. In part 3, we do a quick review. And in part 4, we practice together with real questions.
4 parts, 8 skills, and a future full of robots. This is going to be a good episode.
Let's start. Okay, welcome to part 1. This is our reading passage. The title is Robots and Us. It features 3 experts, Professor Martin Rees, Professor Daniel Woolpert, and Professor Kathleen Richardson.
Don't worry about the names or remembering everything yet. We will explain everything as we go.
I will read each section slowly. After each section, Alice will explain the main idea in simple English, B1 or B2 level. Then we move on.
Think of it like a friendly guide helping you through a new city. Ready? Let's read.
3 leaders in their fields answer questions about our relationships with robots. When asked, should robots be used to colonize other planets, cosmology professor Martin Rees said he believed the solar system would be mapped by robotic craft by the end of the century. He maintains that colonized planets should be preserved with a status that is analogous to Antarctica here on Earth. Engineering professor Daniel Woolpert replied, I don't see a pressing need to colonize other planets unless we can bring resources back to Earth. Using robots to gather resources nearer to home would seem to be a better use of our robotic tools. Meanwhile, for anthropology professor Kathleen Richardson, the idea of colonization of other planets seemed morally dubious. I think whether we do something on Earth or on Mars, we should always do it in the spirit of a genuine interest in the other, not to impose a particular model, but to meet the other.
Okay, so this first part introduces our 3 experts and their thoughts on one big question. Should robots go and live on other planets? Professor Rees thinks robots can map space and mine asteroids, and that these planets should be protected, like Antarctica. Professor Woolpert thinks we should use robots to find resources on Earth first, closer to home. And Professor Richardson thinks it's not right to just go and take over other planets. She says we should be more interested in understanding new places, not just controlling them.
2 important words here. Colonize means to go to a new place and take control of it, often to live there. And dubious means questionable or doubtful, so morally dubious means it might not be morally right.
Colonize, to settle and take control. Say it with me, colonize. You know, this makes me think of those old sci-fi movies where humans just land on a planet and start building. It sounds exciting, but maybe we should think a bit more about the planets themselves.
A very important point. Let's move to the next big question. In response to the second question, how soon will machine intelligence outstrip human intelligence, Rees mentions robots that are advanced enough to beat humans at chess. He goes on to say, later this century, however, their more advanced successors may relate to their surroundings and to people as adeptly as we do. Moral questions then arise. Should we feel guilty about exploiting sophisticated robots? Should we fret if they are underemployed, frustrated, or bored?
Wolpert's response was, in a limited sense, it already has. Machines can already navigate, remember, and search for items with an ability that far outstrips humans. Expecting a machine close to the creative intelligence of a human within the next 50 years would be highly ambitious. Richardson believes that our fear of machines becoming too advanced has more to do with human nature than anything intrinsic to the machines themselves. In her view, it stems from humans' tendency to personify inanimate objects. We create machines based on representations of ourselves, imagine that machines think and behave as we do, and therefore see them as a threat.
Okay, this part is about whether robots will become smarter than humans. Professor Rees thinks robots will be very clever later this century, maybe even as smart as us, in some ways. He asks if we should feel bad about using them. Professor Wolpert says machines are already better than us at some things, like searching for information, but they won't be as creative as humans for at least 50 years. Professor Richardson thinks our fear of smart robots is really about us. She says we often act like machines are people, and then we get scared of them. Outstrip means to become greater than or to do better than. So outstrip human intelligence means to be smarter than humans. And personify means to give human qualities to something that is not human, like thinking a robot has feelings.
So if I say my car is sad because it needs gas, I'm personifying it? So quick recap before we move on. Paragraph A was about robots in space. Paragraph B, which we just read, is about how smart robots might become compared to us. Interesting stuff.
This led on to the third question. Should we be scared by advances in artificial intelligence? To this question, Rees replied, those who should be worried are the futurologists who believe in the so-called singularity. And another worry is that we are increasingly dependent on computer networks, and that these could behave like a single brain with a mind of its own, and with goals that may be contrary to human welfare. I think we should ensure that robots remain as no more than idiot savants, lacking the capacity to outwit us.
Wolpert's response was to say that we have already seen the damaging effects of artificial intelligence in the form of computer viruses. But in this case, he says, the real intelligence is the malicious designer. Critically, the benefits of computers outweigh the damage that computer viruses cause. Richardson's response to this question was this: we need to ask why fears of artificial intelligence and robots persist. None have in fact risen up and challenged human supremacy. She believes that as robots have never shown themselves to be a threat to humans, it seems unlikely that they ever will. In fact, she went on, not all fear robots. Many people welcome machine intelligence.
Okay, this part is about whether we should be scared of smart robots. Professor Rees is worried about something called the singularity, when robots become super smart and can make even better robots. He also worries about computer networks acting like one big brain with its own ideas, which might not be good for people. He thinks we should keep robots smart in one area, but not smart enough to trick us. Professor Wolpert says we already have problems like computer viruses, but the good things about computers are bigger than the bad things. He thinks it will be the same for robots. Professor Richardson asks why we are still scared, because robots have never actually tried to take over. She says many people are happy about smart machines.
Singularity is a special word here, meaning a future time when robots become super smart and can make even better robots. Outwit means to defeat someone by being more clever than them. So Rees wants robots not to be able to outwit us.
Quick question for you. No pressure. Just have a think. Does Professor Richardson think robots are a big threat to humans?
The answer is no. She doesn't think they are a big threat. She says they haven't challenged human power. If you got that right, nice one.
In answer to the fourth question, what can science fiction tell us about robotics? Reese replied, I sometimes advise students that it's better to read first-rate science fiction than second-rate science, more stimulating and perhaps no more likely to be wrong. As his response, Wolpert commented, science fiction has often been remarkable at predicting the future. Science fiction has painted a vivid spectrum of possible futures, from cute and helpful robots to dystopian robotic societies. Interestingly, almost no science fiction envisions a future without robots. Finally, on the question of science fiction, Richardson pointed out that in modern society, people tend to think there is reality on the one hand and fiction and fantasy on the other. She then explained that the division did not always exist, and that scientists and technologists made this separation because they wanted to carve out the sphere of their work. But the divide is not so clear-cut, and that is why the worlds seem to collide at times, she said. In some cases, we need to bring these different understandings together to get a whole perspective. Perhaps then, we won't be so frightened that something we create as a copy of ourselves will be a threat to us.
This last part is about what science fiction, like movies and books about robots, can teach us. Professor Reese thinks good science fiction can be more interesting and maybe even more correct than some science. Professor Wolpert says science fiction is good at predicting the future and shows many kinds of robot futures, but almost all of them have robots in them. Professor Richardson says we often think reality and fiction are totally separate, but they aren't. She thinks if we understand that they can mix, we might be less scared of the robots we create.
Dystopian describes an imaginary place or state where everything is bad or unpleasant. So, dystopian robotic societies means future societies with robots where things are very bad.
Okay, that is the full passage. 4 main sections covering different questions. Let's quickly remember the structure, in case your mind wandered anywhere along the way.
Paragraph A, robots in space.
Paragraph B, how smart robots might become.
Paragraph C, if we should be scared of AI.
Paragraph D, what science fiction tells us about robots.
So, that was our reading passage. How did you feel? Did you catch most of it?
If you didn't catch everything, that is completely normal, especially if you were half listening while doing something else. The goal was never to understand every single word. The goal was just to get the general idea of each section and what each expert was talking about.
Robots in space, robot intelligence, scary AI, science fiction. If you remember those main topics, you have already done something very useful.
And now, we are going to learn the 8 skills that help you read any passage like this faster and more confidently. Let's go to part 2.
Welcome to part 2. This is the main part of today's episode, the 8 reading skills.
8 skills you can use in your next IELTS exam, or even in everyday English reading. Are you ready?
Let's begin with skill 1.
Okay, skill number 1, David?
Skill number 1. Skim the whole passage first before you read carefully.
Skim? You mean read it fast?
Yes, very fast. Don't stop for difficult words. Just get the general idea of each paragraph.
So, for our robot passage, what's the general idea?
Paragraph A talks about robots in space. Paragraph B is about robot intelligence. Paragraph C is about being scared of AI. Paragraph D is about science fiction.
Oh, so it's basically space, intelligence, fear, fiction. That's the same shape we just reviewed a moment ago.
Exactly. And once you know that shape, finding answers becomes much faster.
Why does that help so much?
Because when a question asks about being scared of AI, you already know that's probably in paragraph C. You don't need to search the whole text.
That makes a lot of sense. I always used to read the whole thing first.
No more. Here is a tip. When you skim, only read the first sentence of each paragraph. That sentence usually tells you what the paragraph is about.
Say this with me. Skim first.
Skill number 2. Always read the questions first before you scan for answers.
Wait, isn't that obvious?
You'd think so, but many students start reading the passage in detail before they even know what they're looking for.
So they waste time reading things they don't need.
Exactly. If the question asks about Professor Wolpert's view on robot intelligence, you already know which words to look for.
So the question guides the reading, not the other way around.
Perfectly said. The question is your map. Read the map before you start walking.
The question is your map. Say it with me. The question is your map. Okay, skill 3.
Scan for keywords. Don't read every word. Let your eyes jump to the important ones.
What counts as a keyword?
Names, numbers, dates, and unusual words. For example, in our passage, Martin Rees, Daniel Wolpert, Kathleen Richardson, chess, 50 years.
So if a question asks about Professor Richardson, I just scan for her name?
Exactly. Your eyes move down the page quickly, like a camera looking for the important things.
Like a camera. My eyes are a camera. I love that.
Names of people and numbers are always easy to spot. If a question mentions 50 years, your eyes will find it very quickly.
All right, quick pit stop. So far, we've got skim first, questions are your map, and now eyes like a camera for keywords. 3 down, 5 to go.
Skill 4 is a really useful one. Watch for paraphrasing.
What do you mean by paraphrasing?
The question will almost never use the exact same words as the passage. It will use synonyms instead.
Can you give me an example from our robot passage?
Sure. The passage says morally dubious. A question might say ethically questionable.
Oh, morally becomes ethically, and dubious becomes questionable.
Exactly. Same meaning, different words.
That sounds hard.
It gets easier with practice, honestly. The skill is simply don't look for the same words, look for the same meaning.
Say that again, David. I want to remember it.
Don't look for the same words, look for the same meaning.
Don't look for the same words, look for the same meaning. Say it with me.
Skill 5.
Find the topic sentence. Usually, the first sentence of a paragraph tells you what the whole paragraph is about.
So in paragraph C, the first sentence says, this led on to the third question. Should we be scared by advances in artificial intelligence?
Right. So immediately, you know this paragraph is about whether we should be scared of AI.
So I don't need to read the whole paragraph carefully unless the question is about fears of AI.
Exactly right. The topic sentence is like a sign on a door. It tells you what is inside before you open the door.
Let's practice. Listen to this first sentence. What is the paragraph about?
In response to the second question, how soon will machine intelligence outstrip human intelligence? The paragraph is about how smart robots might become compared to humans. That is paragraph B. Did you get it right?
Skill 6 is the one that trips learners up the most, but it's really just a small logic puzzle. True, false, not given questions.
Oh no, I always get confused with not given.
Everyone does it first. Here is the key difference. True means the passage says the same thing as the statement. False means the passage says the opposite. Not given means the passage simply does not mention it at all.
So not given does not mean false. It just means the passage is silent. No information.
Exactly. The passage is silent. Say it with me. The passage is silent. And here's a little trick this question type likes to play. Sometimes the statement says all or always, but the passage only talks about some. That's usually a false. The statement went too far.
Ooh, so watch out for words like all, every, always, never. Good tip.
Okay, let me test you with 2 statements from our passage. Statement 1. Professor Martin Rees believes robots will terraform other planets.
In paragraph A, he said he believed mapping and mining was more realistic and benign than the terraforming of planets. So he doesn't believe they will terraform, but that it's an alternative he doesn't prefer. So that is false, because the passage says the opposite of him believing it.
Correct. Now try this one. Professor Daniel Wolpert thinks humans should colonize other planets to exploit mineral resources.
In paragraph A, Professor Wolpert said, I don't see a pressing need to colonize other planets unless we can bring resources back to Earth. He's not saying humans should colonize, just questioning the purpose. So the answer is not given. The passage is silent about whether he thinks humans should colonize.
Perfect. You just used skill 6 correctly.
Skill 7?
Manage your time. If one question is taking too long, skip it and come back later.
But isn't it bad to leave a question unanswered?
It's worse to spend 5 minutes on one hard question and lose time for 5 easy ones.
Oh, so one hard question can cost you many easy points.
Exactly. Always guess something, mark it, and move on. You can come back at the end if you have time.
A good rule of thumb, roughly 1.5 minutes per question. If you're still stuck after that, move on and come back later.
And our last skill, skill 8, guess unknown words from context. You will never know every word, and that is completely normal.
Oh, that is so good to hear.
For example, imagine you don't know the word adeptly in our passage, but the sentence talks about robots relating to their surroundings and people as adeptly as we do. It talks about how well they can do something, like a human.
So I can guess adeptly must mean skillfully or very well. I don't need the exact definition, I just need enough to understand the sentence.
Exactly. Context is the words around the unknown word. Use those words as clues.
Say this with me. Use context clues.
And that is skill 8, and all 8 skills done.
Wow, 8 skills. That was a lot, but I feel much more confident now.
You should. These are real, practical skills that every good IELTS reader uses.
And the important thing is, these skills work together. Skim, read the questions, scan for keywords, watch for paraphrasing, topic sentence, true, false, not given, time management, context clues. They are a team.
All 8 working together. Let's go review them quickly. Okay, Alice, I'm going to quiz you. Skill 1, what do we do first?
Read every single word very carefully, twice?
Haha, no, that's the opposite. Skim first. Get the big picture.
Right. Skim first. I knew that. Okay, skill 2.
Skill 2, what's your map?
The questions are your map. Read them first.
Good. Skill 3, how do your eyes move?
Like a camera, scanning for key words, not full sentences.
Excellent. Skill 4, the question won't use the exact words, so what do you look for?
Paraphrasing, the same meaning, different words.
Skill 5, what's like a sign on a door?
The topic sentence, it tells you what the paragraph is about.
Now the tricky one. Skill 6, true, false, or what?
Not given. The passage is silent.
Perfect. Skill 7, if you're stuck.
Manage your time. Skip and come back.
And skill 8, for those unknown words.
Use context clues. The words around them help you guess. 8 skills. I think I got them all this time.
Well, almost. You nearly said read every word at the start.
That one doesn't count. I was warming up. 8 skills reviewed, quickly and clearly.
Remember, you don't need to memorize the names. You need to do them. Skills are actions, not words. Alice, a quick reminder for our listeners before we head into part 4.
Yes, for complete reading sentence analysis, synonym replacements, and solution pathways, head over to IELTSlogic.com.
It's designed by IELTS experts to help you build clear logic. Check out IELTSlogic.com and boost your score. Now, the most important part, putting the skills into action. Let's go to part 4. Welcome to part 4, practice time. We are going to use our passage about robots and us. Remember, the one about space, intelligence, fear, and fiction, and I will ask you real exam-style questions.
Try to answer before we give you the answer, if you can. Say it out loud if you like. No pressure, though. Just listening carefully works too.
After each question, we pause. Then we go back to the passage, look at the exact line, and explain the answer. Let's start with a matching question. Statement 1. For our own safety, humans will need to restrict the abilities of robots. Which expert said this? Martin Rees, Daniel Wolpert, or Kathleen Richardson?
Let's look back at paragraph C, where the experts discuss if we should be scared of AI. Professor Martin Rees said, "I think we should ensure that robots remain as no more than idiot savants, lacking the capacity to outwit us." This means he believes we should limit their abilities for our safety. So the answer is Martin Rees, or A.
Statement 2. The risk of robots harming us is less serious than humans believe it to be. Which expert said this? Martin Rees, Daniel Wolpert, or Kathleen Richardson? For this one, we go to paragraph C again. Professor Kathleen Richardson believes that, as robots have never shown themselves to be a threat to humans, it seems unlikely that they ever will. She also says many people welcome machine intelligence. This shows she thinks the fear is greater than the actual risk. So the answer is Kathleen Richardson, or C. Now, a multiple choice question. What potential advance does Rees see as a cause for concern? A. Robots outnumbering people. B. Robots having abilities which humans do not. C. Artificial intelligence developing independent thought. D. Artificial intelligence taking over every aspect of our lives.
Let's go back to paragraph C. Professor Rees says, "Another worry is that we are increasingly dependent on computer networks and that these could behave like a single brain with a mind of its own and with goals that may be contrary to human welfare." The key phrase here is a mind of its own, which means independent thought. So the correct answer is C.
Statement 3. Robots are probably of more help to us on Earth than in space. Which expert said this? Martin Rees, Daniel Wolpert, or Kathleen Richardson?
For this, we look at paragraph A about colonizing other planets. Professor Daniel Wolpert replied, "Using robots to gather resources nearer to home would seem to be a better use of our robotic tools." This clearly states his belief that robots are more helpful on Earth, so the answer is Daniel Wolpert, or B.
That is the skill working already. And notice, for each one, we didn't just spot the trap, we went back to the exact line that proves the answer. That's the habit worth building.
It actually feels manageable now. When I know the skills, the questions are not so scary.
That is exactly the goal. You don't need to understand every word. You need the right strategy and the habit of checking back against the text.
And now, you have 8 strategies. You are ready.
So that is it for today. 8 reading skills and a fascinating look at our future with robots.
Let's say all 8 one more time, fast. Skim. Questions first. Keywords. Paraphrasing. Topic sentence. True, false, not given. Time management. Context clues.
8 skills. Beautiful.
Before we go, say this with me. I have the right strategy.
I have the right strategy.
I have the right strategy.
Say it one more time if you like, because it's true.
Oh, before we go, one last fun fact about today's topic. Did you know that the word robot actually comes from a Czech word, robota, which means forced labor? It was first used in a play from 1920.
Take that little fact with you. Until next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.